So the idea here is if you can change your mood, your actual outcomes get better in what you're doing. So all the feel good stuff actually is now proving to be absolutely true. And so where do we see that, right? We'll see it in relationships. Just think about, you walk into a room, someone's got a scowl on their face. You're like, nope, I'm going to talk to that person over there, right? And so you start to really draw negative energy if you are exuding negative energy. If you're wearing all your worries on your face, you're reminding everyone who encounters you of their worries. And then you're no fun to be around, and it makes it hard to communicate with. And frankly, you're not approachable, right? And so if you're in an industry where people's skills matter, and you've known me long enough to know that I'm not saying fake it, right? We're going to talk about how to change your mood, not fake your mood. Not be like, great, I'm so good, right? Like that's bullshit. So how do we actually get ourselves into a different state of being and stay there? Science shows that you will absolutely increase productivity because your motivation and focus are impacted by a better mood. So you'll actually accomplish more, better health, lower stress levels, cortisol levels will keep you skinnier. Those individuals with lower stress have better immune system function, overall cardiovascular health. It'll help you build resilience. There's just so many examples I've used over the years. There's this famous one where there was a nurse who claimed she didn't sleep and didn't need it. And they're like, come on. So it turns out she did sleep. She just snuck it here and there. But the one thing that the researchers all noted, and they followed around for like several weeks or months, was that she was the most chipper, positive, good attitude person they've ever come across. And guess what? She dealt with trauma all day in the hospital, and she had long, hard hours, and she shifted her operating system and needed less sleep, right? She didn't need no sleep, but she needed less sleep. The obvious other ones are creativity with better mood, better decision making. If you're in a foul mood and you're in your amygdala, you're not able to rationalize and think clearly about logical outcomes. So the decision-making process happens partially through the prefrontal cortex, but it also kind of senses back downwards. So Betty comes over and says, hey, it's such a beautiful day. We should go take a walk and catch up. And you're thinking to yourself, shove off, Betty. I've got X, Y, and Z I haven't done today. And then I got to pick up the kids. And then I got to do this. And look at that damn mess over there. I don't deserve it. Right. And so you say no. And so then it becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy where you don't do the things that enhance your mood, and you make decisions that keep you crawling into bed. Not the best. Right. Poor mood leads to lower self-confidence. Looking in the mirror 12 times, changing the outfit 6 times before you leave the house happens very, very frequently when you don't feel good. Poor mood actually ruins your sleep quality. It's associated with higher levels of interruptions and sleep latency. Don't really know why, right? There's a lot of speculation as to why, but it'll screw up your sleep. And guess what happens to me when I don't sleep well? I'm in a bad mood, right? So it's a very vicious cycle, that. And the idea that life in and of itself is to be enjoyed, a lot of people have kind of lost that operating system script, right? Where it's like, ho hum, work, feed the kids, do the things. We have all become Maoist automatons in some ways. And so the poor mood, the foul mood actually makes you a better slave, because you just like go back to work and you are willing to accept antidepressants for every little blip because you don't have time for a poor mood. And the poor mood is something that we try to explain off. We try to pretend is not happening. And then eventually, you see cracks in the concrete, don't you? So what can we do to improve our mood? And what I'd like to do is have you all go into the chat thread and type what it is that you do. So it's not Pedram lecturing, but it's, kind of group Group thunk here. What do you do to improve your mood that works for you most of the time? Type it in the chat thread. Susie loves her team. She watches her Blue Jays. Well, so Susie, the big question is, are you still in a good mood when they lose, right? Because that's the thing about sports teams. You know, I've said this many times. I found myself in a foul mood one day, and I traced back to the stupid Lakers losing, which happens more often than not nowadays. And I was like, I can't afford to be moody over this, right? Sleep always works, but don't always get a good night, which is obviously a problem. And we've talked about this a lot, Anne, is those two things feed each other, right? Stress and mood feeds sleep, and sleep feeds back to positive stress and mood, which is quite the quagmire, right? Which is, you got to get out of that eddy. And that's where, I feel sleep is one of the greatest levers one can pull. The glaringly obvious yet unspoken problem with sleep in our culture is that it has also been relegated to a pill for an ill medicine. So it's like, what do I take to help me sleep? Not what do I change in my life to help me sleep, right? The delta between those two questions is a hell of a lot of personal work, responsibility, accountability, not necessarily what the average consumer wants to hear, but doggone it, it's true. Blood sugar stability. Who else feels that with their blood sugar when they miss the mark? It's like, oh boy. I see that with my kids all the time, right? It's like you're like, what the hell's wrong with these crazy animals? And you're like, oh, it's lunchtime, right? We're the same. We're the same, right? Yeah, that's the thing about mood, ain't it? It's a momentum-based phenomenon, right? So when you're already in a foul mood, it's really hard to funk yourself chipper, right? And so for me and a lot of people I know, the best trigger is exercise. If I'm in a foul mood, whether it's going for a walk, going for a run, getting on the bike, or like pressing on, heavy weights or something, I can say 9.9 times out of 10, I can't think of a time, unless I've like egregiously injured myself like an idiot, that I end up in a worse mood after exercise when I needed a state change, right? Meditation works great, but for some people, they can take the drama to the cushion. And I'm sure some people can relate to that here, is like, oh my God, I can't believe Barry just said that. I'm going to go sit on my cushion and huff, and then I'm going to puff, right? Like, you're not meditating, you're stewing, right? And so for folks who, and I've been teaching meditation for a long time, for folks who have that problem, I say, go punch a bag, go out into nature, go for a run, go for a walk, go watch your Blue Jays, right? Like, do the other thing and then go back to meditation. So next time you don't lose your cool, right? Diet, incredibly important. I find that if I'm having high sugar foods, I will be incredibly irritated within an hour to two after. And if I don't catch myself being like, you idiot, you had the, organic gluten-free cookies, I don't care if they're organic or gluten-free, it's the sugar, right? And so that can really set you off. Bad oils. There was a famous place in Park City we used to go to. Amazing Jamaican food. Delicious. Delicious. Like, I love their jerk chicken. Couldn't eat there. I felt sad and depressed every time I ate there. And I'm like, what the hell do you guys cook with? Right? And they were cooking with some shit oil. And I'm like, can I suggest, better oils? And they're like, well, it costs more. I'm like, yeah, but you just lost my business. Like, think better. But like, I couldn't eat there. It was crazy. What a lot of people do, and what a multi-billion-dollar industry is built on, is social connection to change mood. So who here picks up their Instagram or their TikTok when they're in a foul mood to thumb around a little bit, to look at some feeds and see what their friends are doing, to feel less lonely, less sad, right? To connect some. That's why their algorithms are so good, is because they're really driving an intrinsic motivation, an internal trigger of social connection and loneliness, and then giving you something to look at for hours, right? And then selling you a Toyota. But that is a tried and true way of shifting mood. Gratitude, high on the list. If you don't have a gratitude practice, you are doing yourself a disservice. What gratitude does to our minds, our awareness, and our consciousness is really lifts us out of the debacle that we find ourselves in. Oh, I either got to tell him he's got to leave or I got to leave. Or I can make him his favorite meal, buy him a doodad, and go on a trip with him and solve my marital problems. I got to, either be paleo or vegan, or I could just eat sensibly and stop listening to all this nonsense, right? And so there's just so much of this like pendulum swing of black or white that we find ourselves in our mentality. And we, in the use of gratitude as a powerful, powerful lever to change our frame of mind, open ourselves up to all that's good, which then opens us up from the either or decisions that we think we have to make. What's funny is there are different ways the algorithm targets you. So based on your user click behavior, the algo knows that you seeing horrible things or nasty things or sad things keeps you there longer and hooks you longer. So you're not getting the cat videos. Whereas some other people don't stay longer with the nasty stuff, they bail out and they get the cat videos, right? So based on how you respond when despondent, the algorithm will give you more, right? It's really hard. It's really, really hard. The tried and trues are gratitude, exercise, nature, obviously sleep, but sleep has so many aspects to it that require you to do all this other stuff, right? Hobbies that you enjoy, art, painting, badminton, crochet, I don't care, right? Hobbies that you enjoy. And then obviously, the limiting of negative inputs. If you're already down, don't read the news, right? If you are feeling blue about X, Y, or Z, don't bring it up in conversation at the cocktail party, right? There are ways to shift your perspective. But I personally find that an overt, gross, not like disgusting, but like large physiological pulse does the most for myself and my patients, which is, and for some of you, I mean, listen, consult your doctor, but, just get your heart rate up over 150 for at least 5 minutes. That elevated heart rate absolutely shifts all of your perspective around the stress that you thought you were feeling. Because guess what? Your brain is now stressed. It's not getting enough oxygen. And it says, shut up about the stupid PowerPoint. I need oxygen. And so you do that, you get the brain oxygen, and then you go back to saying, what the hell was I fussing about? It works amazingly well. It'll shift your mood in a way that is meaningful, measurable, and accessible within literally 5 minutes. Now, if it's going to take you a hot minute to get up to 150, or you have to scale, what's the right word? Tiptoe your way up to that kind of like elevated heart rate, do it that way, right? Don't die. I'm not giving you, the bad cardiology advice here. Do it in a way where you get yourself up there. But if you're not, suffering from heart disease, race to 150 or 160, come back down. 10 minutes later, assess your mood. And honestly, like just on a 1 to 10 scale, right? I would say, and I'll make up the scale with you right now. 1 being foul, 10 being the best mood I've ever been in. What's my mood right now? On a 1 to 10 scale, where's my optimism right now? And on a 1 to 10 scale, where's my motivation right now? That's it. 3 markers. Then get your heart rate up to 150 for at least 3 minutes. If you can sustain it. If not, go up and down. If you can sustain it for a minute, go back down, go back up, go back down. But get your heart rate to 150 for 3 sustained minutes by hook or by crook. Wait 10 minutes and then redo these 3 questions. If you're not at least 50% better, I'll get a hair transplant. It's literally that easy. But the problem is, I don't feel like it. Right? I don't feel like it. So how do I get my heart rate to 150 if I'm sitting on the sofa? I go for a walk. And then after about 10 minutes of some form of movement, then I say, okay, I'm going to do a sprint. I'm going to do squats. I'm going to do whatever it is to get to 150. I've found that it's very easy for 20-year-old guys with six packs to give menopausal women health advice that they'll never follow, right? I've found that, the elite fitness experts saying, do what I do is BS, right? Because if you are down, you are blue, your knees hurt, and you're overweight, getting up and jumping up to 150 beats per minute sounds a little daunting, right? And so that's where the sequencing comes in. Go for a walk. Go for a longer walk. Eventually work your way up to a brisk walk. Eventually work your way up to getting to 150. But you will get there if you go for that walk. Every day, get your ass up and go for the walk. Anytime you're in a foul mood, say, you know what, I'll be back in 15 minutes. And if you could get your heart rate up to 150, the target is 3 minutes. But if you could just get to 150 and drop back down, it's a hell of a lot better than you did yesterday. And from there, there's a dawn on your perspective. There is literally a mood sunrise that starts to color your days in a way where you're like, yeah, why don't we do that? We used to garden, right? And you start doing the things again that come with good mood and positivity. Once you start shifting yourself, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So positivity absolutely begets positivity, and negativity does the opposite. So as much as I am a fan of Zen Buddhism, Vipassana, equanimity, and the non-judgmental observation of mental states, sometimes you just got to kick yourself in the ass to force yourself into a better mood to get the positive momentum going, and then you'll sit down and do your Vipassana more often anyways, right? So I'm not a Luddite, right? I think the Buddhist stuff is lovely. I think the Taoist stuff is exquisite. I think the modern stuff is relevant. And so some of what we've been learning is that you will be better and do better and perform better and have more friends and make more money and be in better shape if you're in a better mood. That's why everyone's doing ketamine now. That's why Quaaludes hit the 60s, right? Like, people understand that if you change your mood, you can avert your suffering or at least delay your suffering, which is not what I'm condoning. What I'm saying is use natural methodology to change your mood to then allow you to make better decisions that then allow you to stay in a better mood. You want to live there, but you might need a tow truck to get back on the superhighway. So what's that tow truck for you? What is it that you're willing to do to pull yourself up and out today to experiment with for a better mood? Walk in nature, practice gratitude, do some squats. I mean, most of you all are, not teenagers. So you've already experimented in this thing called life. You already know some of the things that make you better. How many of you are willing to experiment with this 150 beats thing this week? You know what elevates my mood a lot? I have a hard time recommending it broadly, because a couple of years ago, I did this meme with a picture of Gwyneth Paltrow and said, let them eat kale, right? It's expensive eating organic and well, right? So it's like, for me to say, oh, you should do an infrared sauna. Not everyone can afford that. But if you can, it's awesome, right? I love my infrared sauna. It absolutely boosts my mood. But does that take the place of exercise? No. And I found this happens a lot is, oh, well, Pedram, you were a monk. You're different. Not sure how, but people think that like I'm some sort of superhuman that has no issues with challenges or calamity or all of it. So I'd rather them hear it from you because you represent each other to each other. The assignment, to be clear, is get your heart rate up to 150 for 3 minutes. Answer those 3 questions. And then 10 minutes later, answer the 3 questions again. Easy way to measure without a device. Good old-fashioned style. Count. Every time you feel it hit your finger, that's 1, right? So beats per minute. This is how we used to do it, old school, before all this cute stuff showed up, right? Right there. And I promise you, if you're close to 150, you'll feel it, right? And the questions 1 to 10, what's my current mood? 1 to 10, what's my optimism like and my motivation? So I hope this was useful to y'all. Thank you very much.